An off day yesterday for the Toronto Blue Jays as they look to play their last 6 games of the season. Where does the injuries leave the starting pitching? What is going on with Bichette? So much to talk about. That doesn't even include how do people feel about the big celebration after clinching the postseason.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. As always, I'm Brayden Iwasko. He's Carter First. You can find us on Twitter, Brayden5 Iwasko. Carter First, too, as well, on our main Twitter account, at Locked On Jays. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok, at Locked On Blue Jays. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. We appreciate it a ton. It's free. Might as well. You get your shorts, your podcasts, the live streams, the videos, the whole ordeal, the whole shebang. So hit that subscribe button. So much to talk about today. We're going to talk Bichette injury probably right off the top here. It is the most relevant. There is a lot going on there, a lot of discussion to be had as well. The starting pitching. I mean, just the injuries plaguing this team right now before heading into the playoffs is massive. What's going to happen with this bullpen? And also, how do people feel about the Toronto Blue Jays and their big celebration for clinching the playoffs? And not just the Blue Jays, but in general. Some people are getting a little upset over the fact that they're celebrating getting into the postseason. As well, of course, series preview coming in the third segment. So a lot to talk about, Carter. I think let's jump right into it with the Bichette injury update. I'll sort of dive right into that of what sort of this comes right from Keegan Matheson. I'll sort of put this out. This is a couple days ago now. The Blue Jays are still deciding on what to do with Bichette. Obviously, he went with them to Kansas. But regardless, they play for him to be in Toronto for the homestand. Hitting and throwing will come first, running last until any of the starts. There's still no solid timeline. To me, Carter, that's a little bit of a red flag as we head into, like I said, the last 6 games of this season. I don't know. To me, that sounds like he's coming back for the playoffs, but where, when, how? Will he be back for the first game of the playoffs? Does it depend on where the Toronto Blue Jays finish? That's sort of where I'm assuming. I'm assuming if they make the wild card, he probably won't be back for the first game. But if they get the bye and don't have to play in that wild card round, then I could possibly see Bichette making his start in game 1 there. That's sort of the timeline in my head that I have going on right now.
Well, with Bichette, and this is best case scenario, this is assuming that the Toronto Blue Jays can get a bye. The ALDS starts October 3rd, and that's an important date for a couple of reasons. Chris Bassitt has something to do with that as well. Bichette has less than 2 weeks to be recovered for that ALDS series, and that's assuming that, or hoping that you can be in an ALDS series. So hopefully you can just avoid the wild card altogether. But if you're looking for Bichette to be ready for a wild card, hopefully, again, I want to preface this, if I don't want to be in a wild card series, hopefully you can just avoid that to rest your pitchers, Santander, Bichette, Chris Bassitt, so many guys that would benefit greatly from making the ALDS and avoiding that wild card series together or all together. But it's a little murky, and we've seen at least recently how the Toronto Blue Jays offense looks without Bichette. And in a playoff scenario when teams are throwing their best pitchers and they really don't have a regard for rest whatsoever, like if their starting pitcher has thrown 130 pitches and he still looks good, they might keep him out there for another inning because it's the playoffs. You're throwing everything you can against the wall. And not having Bichette on this team is definitely not going to help out whatsoever, especially in terms of those clutch hits, in terms of driving in runs with 2 outs, with a runner on first and second, with a runner on third. Doesn't matter what it is. Bichette is probably the guy that I want in every scenario with runners in scoring position. And him not being on the Toronto Blue Jays ball club would be detrimental to this Toronto Blue Jays offense. Just puts so much more stress on this Toronto Blue Jays pitching staff, bullpen specifically, but starting rotation obviously as well. You want this team to be healthy. You want this team to be as good as they possibly can going into the playoffs. And you're going to obviously need Bichette to be ready. So he was doing some fielding drills at Kauffman Stadium. Like he was just participating in some light baseball activity. This from Shai Davidi. Did some light hitting in a cage. did some flips and T work. That's like working at shortstop, pretty much working on flips there. And there's an Anthony Santander update as well. He's been playing in AAA, hitting home run from both sides. You guys have gotten that as well. Timeline still unclear with him. It's almost more positive with Anthony Santander now, which, I mean, long time coming for him, and you can't really compare him. But if I'd rather have Bichette ready or Anthony Santander ready, I think a lot of fans will be on the same page as me. We've seen what Bichette can do a lot more recently than Anthony Santander. You want both of them, but Bichette is obviously the priority for this baseball team.
Oh, he has to be. And you know what? I think it's the way that not only he carries himself, but how much of a leader he's become in this ball club. I mean, even talking to the media now, Carter, and the answers that we receive from Bichette now compared to even 2 years ago, I think shows the maturity in Bichette so much. And actually, this is again from Keegan Matheson. There was a quote that came directly from Bichette on some of the guys and everything like that. So I want to get into and talk about that right now as well. Bichette called this the closest team he's ever played on and says the Blue Jays have everything it takes to win a World Series. He gave special credit to Ernie, Clement, and Miles Straw for the work that they did, bridging the gap between a lot of players. And even in little things like this, right, I think the maturity in Bichette and the leadership that he might not outwardly show on a day-to-day basis, I think what he means to this clubhouse and this team on and off the field would be drastically missed. I'm not even talking about the production side. I'm just talking about the in the clubhouse, around the team, around the guys. He's looked at as a leader now, a guy that's been here so long. And that's not even talking about, like I said, what he's been able to do on the field, which is something special. And a guy that probably one of, if not him, he's the second guy you trust the most when it comes to being in the box in a big moment, right? So that's a big part of it.
Yeah, like we've both used these terms like who you trust the most and like this is the guy that you prefer to have on. But unfortunately for us, that it doesn't work out exactly that way every single time. And if you have a lot of the guys that can drive in runs compared to just a few of them, that's always going to bode better for you, especially against good pitching staff. So having George Springer, Vladdy, like these are guys that, again, barring anything crazy, knock on wood, should be in the middle of your order. But if you can add Anthony Santander, you can add Bichette, you have Daulton Varsho in there, you have Addison Barger, you provide a little bit more depth and some guys that can really do some damage in the middle of that order. And the home run ball that we talk about all the time, specifically in the playoffs, again, it matters in the regular season as well, with how good the pitching is. Sometimes you only get that one swing of the bat where you can really barrel up a baseball. So the home run ball is going to be massive. Not necessarily Bichette. He still does have the power to do that. Bichette's the guy that you probably want on base for somebody else to hit a home run. I know he's probably still going to be hitting in that number 4 spot when he comes back, but you have Anthony Santander behind him, Addison Barger, Daulton Varsho. Those are 3 guys right there, assuming Santander can come back. That can definitely hit a long ball. So Bichette, Anthony Santander, I'm going to throw him in this now because it is looking a little bit more promising with him. What production are we going to get from Santander? That's a massive question. But at least if you can get these names back into the lineup, I think it's just going to make the Toronto Blue Jays fan base and then John Schneider as well just feel a lot better about the clubhouse and the roster that he's presenting in the playoffs.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we could talk about here, which is obviously going to lead us into a bigger conversation, not only with the offensive side of the ball, but obviously the pitching as well. You're missing, we talk about how much this bullpen struggled in August and just how brutal they were. And you know what? I don't want to place it on injuries because they weren't good. And I'm not taking anything away from the fact that they weren't good. And this is not an excuse, but you're missing 2 of your bigger pieces heading into this season, Yimi, Garcia, and Nick Sandlin, who just at this point are toast for this season. So we're relying on a lot of guys right now that you didn't expect to get this kind of production from, offensively and in the pitching side of things. So it really is a masterpiece of what this team has been able to do this season, coming off of what a horrible, horrible season last year was. And I hate to even talk about and bring up last year because I sort of want to forget about it. But the drastic shift of what this team's been able to do really, really is exceptional. So, yeah, though having Santander and Bichette back, that could be massive. I mean, you're looking at, like, think about how scary that lineup would be. George Springer, you got a guy, we'll say for now, I'll throw Addison Barger in there. George Springer, Addison Barger, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bichette, Daulton Varsho, Anthony Santander, Alejandro, Kirk. That's terrifying. Like, if you're another baseball club and you look at that lineup, that is scary. And to have Santander back and in the middle of that, a guy that's able to, like you said, hit the long ball, 44 last season, I'd be terrified. I don't care how bad he's playing at the time or what he hasn't done this season. That's a guy who could kill you at any point. So, yeah, if they come back, I'm ecstatic. But I'm questioning it a little bit right now for sure.
See, it's hard for me to like fathom it going badly. I think it's just because of the way things have gone this entire season for the Toronto Blue Jays. Like Bichette's been hurt. He's come back and he hasn't missed a beat. George Springer, when he got hit in the head with a fastball, is on IL, comes back, doesn't really miss a beat whatsoever. Daulton Varsho, every single time he's been out, he's on pace still for like 50 home runs. Again, he's not going to get there because he doesn't have the games played. But whenever these guys go down to AAA, and you can even talk about like the guys that aren't going down there because of injuries, like David Schneider when he's been sent down there, Joey Loperfido, when those guys go down to AAA and they come back up, they've been immediately, as soon as you plug and play them into the lineup, they've been unbelievable. So with Anthony Santander, if we can, continue to follow suit, there's way more wild cards with Anthony Santander, but maybe that's setting me up for a false reality that we've seen it so many times happen in different scenarios. Why can't Anthony Santander do it as well? Maybe there's some magic down there in AAA Buffalo for some of these guys. But unfortunately now the AAA season is coming to an end. So not a lot of rehab starts, unfortunately, for a lot of these Toronto Blue Jays guys anymore. They're going to have to do their own individual stuff and just hopefully be ready so they can just play with the Toronto Blue Jays and not have to worry about minor league affiliates.
Well, and Carter, what's something that we don't talk about enough and probably doesn't get brought up at all, really, is the pitching machine that the Toronto Blue Jays have in their facility that mimics the pitchers they're going to face, and they can plug in anybody and can pitch that. So, when guys do come back from injury, they can go and hit there, and it's like hitting against some of the world's best pitchers. It's not that they're got to be sent down to AAA and they just go and hit off AAA guys. No, they're still putting in the work in the cage against this pitching machine that a lot of other teams don't have the access to, don't have this kind of technology. So, when we talk about this, Rogers and the Blue Jays organization, I think a very looked over component to all of this is the technology that these guys have in their facility. So, even if Bichette does miss some time, can't come back before the end of the season, at least he's got the pitching machine. He can't be sent down to AAA, so at least he's got the pitching machine, I guess, that he can, you can see at least what something of MLB pitching is like.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. It's better than not having it. Am I going to take a human being pitching to a player, instead of this robot that's doing it? Absolutely. For example, like Chris Bassitt will say his arm slots. I'm just going to throw out a random number. It's 35 degrees. It's not going to be 35 degrees every single time. It's going to fluctuate a little bit every single time. Like your pitches aren't going to spin the exact same amount every time. There's going to be pitches throughout a start that are better than others. So again, when you see the release point, there's a lot of things that it can mimic, and especially like I'd say pregame, this matters a ton because if you can go and get some at bats against the starting pitcher that you're about to face, that's definitely going to help you, especially if he has like a specific pitch that's absolutely disgusting. Like we'll use Clayton Kershaw because of the retirement information, but like his curveball, if you have the Clayton Kershaw curveball and you can see that a couple times, especially if you've never seen it before, and then go into that game, you might save yourself some embarrassment because at least with that, the robot where you've seen it, it's not the perfect thing, but you've seen at least, it mimics something what that pitch is going to look like. So yeah, definitely a bonus that the Toronto Blue Jays do have it. I know a lot of the other teams throughout the MLB have this machine as well. I mean, like the Miami Marlins, I almost bet my entire bank account they don't have this, but the teams like the Dodgers, any of the teams with the higher payroll systems probably have machines similar to this. It's technology. We've seen it since the 21st century really advanced, and it's not just advancing in like our everyday regular lives, helping us out with the podcast, getting more advanced technology wise, but it's also helping them in the major leagues as well.
Totally. And you know what? We talk about why this Blue Jays team is so much better at home than they necessarily are on the road. And this definitely could be part of it, right? You get to go see a couple of this similar-esque pitches at least, and what you're going to be facing out there. So just an interesting thought. I had somebody bring that up to me at work the other day, asking me about this machine. They saw a TikTok on it and asked me what I thought. And I said, you know what? It can't hurt, right? These machines and getting that preparation before a ball game, it really can't hurt. So yeah, has it helped? Probably.
It's crazy. We've talked a lot about the buy. We've talked a lot about the significance of a buy, but we haven't really talked about the significance of that home field advantage. Not just having the robot at the Rogers Center. It's playing at the Rogers Center, having the fan base, having that environment for the Toronto Blue Jays. You look at the home and road splits for the Toronto Blue Jays. You look at any team's home and road splits. They're going to be a lot better at home because it's a lot more familiar. Their routines they've been doing the entire spring. They've been doing a lot in the offseason for guys that have been here for a while. It's something that they are familiar and comfortable comfortable with. And then you have the Toronto Blue Jays fans, 40 to 45,000 of them, obviously being very invested and loud and present at the Rogers Center. It puts some fear into the other team's hearts. And we know how loud the Rogers Center can get and how that atmosphere can impact other pitchers. So not just obviously the rest versus rust argument, being in the best shape and just feeling the best that you can in 162 baseball game season, but just being at home, having that familiarity, and then just having the fans behind you. That is something that holds a complete separate significance of just what the play is on the baseball field.
Yeah, I 100%. That's something you're right. We haven't talked enough about. Maybe people don't talk about it enough. But we did have the big rest versus rust conversation, so that definitely goes into it as well, Carter. So good point there. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some pitching, a whole bunch of stuff, talking about celebrating playoffs and making it there. And, of course, we still got the series preview to come. So a lot more on today's episode of Locked On Blue Jays.
Today's episode is once again sponsored by Nutrafol. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, that actually works. There are so many products out there and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. And that's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just the hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. Whether you are at work, out with friends, or even getting ready in the morning, Nutrafol gives you the confidence in your daily routine. Just having some things you're thinking about all the time, whether it is your hair shedding, it could be something completely different, but having somewhere in your life where you lack confidence is definitely noticeable, and people can notice that with you as well. You want to be as confident as you can possibly be. You want to be a confident being in every part of your life, and Nutrafol can definitely help you restore that confidence if your insecurities are stemming from your hair. See thicker and stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol today. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB.
So, Carter, we talked about how we were going to get into this a little bit today. In yesterday's episode, just the fact that Chris Bassitt will be on the 15-day IL, and that's retroactively to September 19th. So you're without Chris Bassitt. That's a blow. I mean, for a team that just moved Eric Lauer, well, not just moved Eric Lauer, but moved Eric Lauer and now Jose Berrios to the bullpen, there's going to have to be some more discussions that are had about who gets where. Can you bring Jose Berrios? Will he be ready for another start this season? What's going to happen with all of that, and how many games can you get guys like Trey Savage in? You probably at this point need Max Scherzer to get back on the hill and make up for what happened in the last appearance to finalize your playoff rotation and what that's going to be. Again, you probably know who your first two are in Kevin Gausman and Shane Bieber, but who holds down that 3 hold? That's a big conversation that still is up in the air for this team.
When we talked about the starting rotation for the playoffs, in early September, we always said, it would probably get more clear as we continue to get farther and farther down the schedule. I think if anything, that's been reversed. Like you said, other than the first 2 starters, even if you want to flip-flop them, I think Shane Bieber and Kevin Gausman at this point are for sure your 1 and 2s. Again, whichever way you want to do it, I don't really care. For me, it's Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber. If you want to flip that, go for it. But now you're looking at the 3rd spot, and this is not even just the 3rd spot. If you want to look at, this team could do a 3-man starting rotation and then do it like a full-on bullpen day as the number 4, because the Dodgers did that pretty much exclusively throughout the playoffs, especially in the World Series. They had that 3-headed monster and then went to a bullpen day. Ours would probably stemmed with a Jose Berrios or Eric Lauer already. So there's that decision. Do you want to go 3-man rotation? Do you want to go with 4? With now Chris Bassitt, he is available for the first game of the ALDS, but being on the 15-day IL, just, as soon as you activate him, do you want to throw him into a playoff start? Again, that is the first game. Do you want Chris Bassitt to pitch in the first game? He's probably not going to do that either. So that's an option. Jose Berrios, do you move him right back from the bullpen to the starting rotation? Max Scherzer now, with the blowups that he's had, over a 6 ERA in his last 7. That's inflated, obviously, with the last start, but it hasn't really been that good. We've heard about some injury concerns and maybe some conditioning stuff with Max Scherzer about the back. Some uncertainty there. Trey Savage only made 2 starts. Do you want him to be your number 3 guy? There's a lot that goes into this, whether it's a wild card, ALDS, is this an elimination game? There's a lot that we could talk about and a lot of different ways that this could unfold for the Toronto Blue Jays here. Maybe Eric Lauer, you just go with the bullpen day as your number 3. where are you at least right now with everything considered stemming for a number 3 guy? You got to make a decision with everything you know and everything that we have watched up to this point. You have to make a decision. Who's your number 3 guy?
Okay, so interesting scenario. Thank you for throwing that at me. I appreciate that. Well, obviously, it's Kevin Gausman, Shane Bieber. That has been
it's a
and
tough question.
Forever will be. But where I'm at right now is Trey Savage into either Eric Lauer or Jose Berrios. And then what you do is you do whatever you don't use on that day. So say you go Trey Savage, Eric Lauer. The next day, you have the rotation of what could be Max Scherzer, Jose Berrios, or Max Scherzer, Eric Lauer. And that's what you do for the 3-4. You do it as a split start almost, but dependent on how it's going, right? It's very short leash. These guys get in trouble, bang, you go to the next guy. Both starts. I think that's where this team is at. You have guys that are very capable in both scenarios, and some guys maybe that you don't trust 100% to start a game or go, do you want Jose Berrios seeing the order twice, 3 times? Probably not, right, at this point. Same with Max Scherzer. Do you want him to see an order 3 times? Probably not. That's probably where the guys take advantage. So even twice, right, you have to make that call, and that's a judgment call. So in those 2 games, do I trust John Schneider to make that call at the right time? I don't know right now, to be honest with you, because we have seen him mess things up in the past when a guy is going out there and throwing their best stuff. But for right now, yeah, I think you go Trey Savage into somebody else. Game 4, you go either Max Scherzer or Jose Berrios into the other one. That's where I'm at. I don't know if that's the right answer. I couldn't tell you. But I bet you this team is just having as much problems with it as me and you sit here today and talk about it.
It's tough for John Schneider because I think recently, like within the last couple of weeks, like we've seen John Schneider make a lot of strides this season, but there's been some questionable things recently, especially with his pinch hitting scenarios.
Yeah,
not as much pitching wise. Like I'm sort of okay with what he's done a lot of the time pitching, but he's in love with Andres Gimenez in late inning scenarios. When you have David Schneider on the bench, again, separate argument, but I'm starting to lose a little bit of faith with John Schneider. That's the overarching thing that I want to include in this conversation because it's kind of what you brought up is that. With you again, you got your 2 guys. Like this is kind of I'm focused on like the 3rd and 4th guys here. Like I'm penciling in Kevin Gausman and Shane Bieber personally. You guys can leave like comments if you guys disagree with that and just what your scenario would be otherwise. But there's problems with literally everybody that you could throw in the 3rd and 4th start. You can go down the line. You can kind of make a pros and cons list, which maybe we'll have to do as we continue on down the stretch here. I don't think we'll do that necessarily in this episode. But this is where I'm at, I think, at this point. And this is assuming that everyone is available, like down the stretch, like you're going to be fine starting rotation wise. You'll just kind of throw whoever, honestly, whoever you want for the rest of this regular season. You got like 7 guys, I guess 6 with Chris Bassitt now out that you can throw on any given day. But you have everybody available. I think it really depends on who you're playing. And I think it depends on the matchup because what we have seen John Schneider do is we've seen him set this whole team up for success, whether that's lefties versus righties, whether that's, hitting, that's pitching, like every decision he's made has kind of been this platoon role. And we've been really looking for someone to kind of separate themselves. We've been looking for someone to at least grab that 3rd starting rotation spot. And if you ask me out of anybody who has at least tried to do that the most, it's probably Trey Savage. And that's where I'm at. Again, we talked about the scenario. If this is an elimination game, you're not throwing Trey Savage. I'm sorry.
Right.
You can't.
That's right.
Like if it's a wild card, it's game 3 and it's 1-1, like Trey Savage isn't going. Like you can't do that to the kid, unfortunately. So there's also there. It's very scenario dependent, but you're talking just like the guy that I trust the most at this point. And we're talking about the ALDS here. Scenario we used last time when we did this, it was 1-1. For me, it's still Trey Savage as the game 3. But this is the system that I would be deploying and this is what I kind of expect John Schneider to do, if I'm being completely honest here. I think it's Trey Savage, and then I think it's probably Chris Bassitt as a piggyback. I think these leashes are very short, no matter who it is. It could be Chris Bassitt, it could be Eric Lauer, Jose Berrios, Max Scherzer, Trey Savage. The leashes for all of them are extremely short because you have every other one of those guys as an option in all of those games as well. So if you start to see some guys fluctuate with their performance, you're yanking them out of there immediately. So for me, it's Trey Savage into Chris Bassitt, and then it's probably Max Scherzer, which Max Scherzer has been very effective this year at getting right-handed hitters out. That really hasn't been a problem at all. It's been the lefties. So if Max Scherzer runs into trouble, you probably want a lefty, a guy that's better at pitching against left-handed hitters, to go into that game. So my piggyback for Max Scherzer is Eric Lauer. And then Jose Berrios is just your long man. He's just that guy. If something happens, maybe you just, you have extra innings. Kevin Gausman doesn't have the best start. Whatever ends up happening, he's kind of your Swiss Army knife where maybe you can use him as well as like a, three-headed monster. Imagine like Trey Savage, Bassitt, Berrios. I think if that happens, you're probably screwed. Things didn't go that well. But you kind of have him as a Swiss Army knife where you throw anywhere. So I think like if you have a lineup with a lot of lefties, then maybe you have Eric Lauer in there sooner than later with Max Scherzer. So it's all dependent on the scenarios. But for me, like it's Trey Savage is my biggest upside guy in this scenario. I know it's only been 2 starts, but I think at this point, you got to throw the guy that you think has the best chance at giving you a chance to win. For me right now, your third guy is Trey Savage.
Yeah, so me and you were pretty much on the same page in regards to this. And that's sort of where I figured a lot of people will be, because there hasn't been that standout guy yet that's, like you said, taking advantage of the opportunity given. Carter, just before we continue here, obviously series preview still to come, a lot more to talk about, but you brought up something to me today just before this, we started doing the episode, and that's the celebration that happened when the Toronto Blue Jays made the postseason, and you saw a lot of tweets saying that people weren't thrilled about it or whatever. Why don't you get right into that, because I do want to have a little conversation on this as well.
Yeah, so this happens every single year. Unfortunately for us, we didn't get to have this conversation last year because we didn't make the playoffs. So we didn't get to have this argument. But every single year this falls true is that when MLB teams make the playoffs, they pretty much party in the clubhouse. Whether they're at home, they're away, they celebrate. They celebrate their long season together, and they celebrate the accomplishment that it is to make the Major League playoffs. And every year without fault, you have people that are on board with it. They're like, oh yeah, let the guys do their thing. Playoffs, a big achievement, obviously, very long season. You play 162 games. Like, you should let these guys celebrate. And then there's the other side of the fence where it's like, especially with the Toronto Blue Jays, I think this year this comes into play a lot. Is the playoffs the goal? Like, with a lot of these teams, especially like, for example, the Dodgers, that are almost like a staple to make the playoffs every year. And that's where a lot of these teams get hate. It's like, hey, we made the playoffs 9 years in a row. Like, is it worth celebrating? Like, that's not the goal at this point. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, making the playoffs is not the goal anymore either, really. It's winning the American League. It's getting the bye and going on a deep playoff run. But a lot of people say, like, hey, like, why are these guys celebrating? The job's not finished. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm not on board with this whatsoever. For me, like, just breaking down what a Major League season is. It's 162 baseball games. Like, these games are about 2.5 hours, but that's just strictly games. You're not talking about the practice time. You're not talking about the meetings in spring training. You're not talking about the travel time on the plane. You're not talking about the dinners. You're not talking about the warm-ups. Like, these guys are spending way more times together than they are with their entire families. And the MLB season is twice as long as the NHL season. Like, the NHL is 82 games and the MLB season is 162. Again, there's difference with the physicalities and the toll on the body and things like that. But the major leagues, you play every single day. You don't get days off often whatsoever. You can go on stretches where you play 14 days straight of baseball and you're not really seeing your family that often. And there's a lot more outside things that kind of go into this. So I think this is a massive achievement. And I never understand why people get mad at teams celebrating this achievement, because it is very hard to make the playoffs. And things can go awry very quickly. Injuries happen. There's over expectations. There's under expectations. We definitely saw the under expectations in 2024. So you really saw it when they were celebrating as well. Max Scherzer was one of the most fired up right away. John Schneider, a guy that's kind of been around major league clubs and just around baseball for a long time, knows how important it is to make the playoffs. A lot of the starting pitchers, Chris Bassitt, Kevin Gausman, they haven't made the playoffs every single year they played. So they know how important it is to make the playoffs. So the side that I'm on is that let these guys celebrate. Who are we to hate on these guys that are putting their blood, sweat, and tears day in and day out in the game that they love? Who are we to hate on them saying, hey, like, we're going to take something away from the achievement that you guys have dedicated your entire lives to?
Carter, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. came out after obviously clinching the playoffs, and he says the job's not finished. We want to win the division. That was a statement from Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Yeah.
And right on.
Celebrating making the playoffs doesn't change that, right?
No, absolutely not. In the same vein as of what you said, you're right. Maybe it loses some of the finesse and the sparkle when you're there every season. But from the depths of hell that this team was coming from last season to getting to this point, probably where a lot of people didn't have them making the playoffs or some people sniffing the playoffs, for this team to succeed in the way that they have done it so far this season, let these guys celebrate it. Carter, I celebrated it. People texted me being like, the boys did it. They got in, a couple more and they're going to win, whatever, right? Go all the way. This team has a whole country behind them. Let the boys celebrate a little bit. Maybe it takes the pressure off. Maybe it dims the lights a little bit for them. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, this is a long season, and I think it would be different for me. Maybe I don't think I'd have a different reaction. But in seeing now where this team has been, and, me and you, Carter, we watch almost 162 games a year, and we get tired. Like, imagine how we were like, heck yeah, like, let's go. Like, we were pretty much popping champagne, never mind being in those games and all the big moments there with your teammates. And then for you guys to come from the season you had last year into this year and having that success, let the boys party it up a little bit. They have an off day. It sort of came at the perfect time. Like, the boys will be a little hungover, yesterday, and they'll come to the ballpark. They'll be ready to play because they know, like Vlad said, they still have work to do and they still got a job to get done. So that doesn't take away from the fact that these boys are going to probably try to put the body and the life on the line a little bit here for this team.
Yeah, Vladdy said it. John Schneider said it literally in the locker room right before they popped the champagne bottles. This is the first stepping stone on the things that we want to accomplish this year. And you said it best, is that the argument would be a lot of the time is, hey, like, if you have these bigger goals, like, you don't really want to be hungover for those bigger goals. Well, the Toronto Blue Jays have an off day. So luckily for them, the schedule gods were in their favor, and they're definitely going to get after it tonight. And just saying that, backtrack a little bit as well, just in terms of like looking at the season, when they swept the Padres, when they swept the Mariners, when they swept the Yankees for a 4-game series, do you think they weren't getting after it on the plane after that? Do you think they weren't celebrating after those massive wins? There's miniature celebrations throughout the entire season. Yes, they're not popping champagne bottles in the locker room after these wins, but there's boats of celebration throughout the entire season, especially when you have an off day and you're in a pretty good spot, as have this celebration. They're definitely going to enjoy themselves. I don't think we're in this place to take anything away from this baseball team. So yeah, shout out to them for making the playoffs. But like we said, and this is why we didn't really react on the Monday episode that much. Like, we didn't make it this big, oh my goodness, the Toronto Blue Jays made the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. It's because one thing, it's been almost expected since like the trade deadline, like sort of like last season where the season felt lost at the trade deadline. It was almost the opposite. So whereas for sure you're nervous in every single game, like the games mean more and more. But this team felt like a shoe. And like, I called this team as a playoff, like they made the playoffs after they beat the St. Louis Cardinals. I think this was in like May or June in a series. Like, you just tell the vibes are different. Yes, there are bigger goals in mind, but yeah, it's a big accomplishment, obviously, to make the playoffs. And before I forget, this is completely off topic, but this has to go into our fantasy stuff. I did forget about this on Monday. I wasn't just salty that I did lose in our fantasy semifinals, but the Locked On League is in the finals. And I just wanted to give a shout out to a couple of the guys or the people that are in there. So Jim Haller and Haley Haller. Yeah, Brayden hasn't cared about this fantasy league in the last, it's been like a 2024 Toronto Blue Jays season. And I've been like the 2025 Toronto Blue Jays, just absolutely holding down the league. But Jim Haller and Haley Haller, the only two co-owners in the league, absolutely beat the brakes off of me. I didn't even start Noah Cameron on Saturday because I was just like, I have no chance whatsoever here. And then we have Ryan Scott as well. I like your strategy. Braden's not a fan of it. You just you rotate the pitchers. You go all in on the position players. You try to play matchups, and you get some of the guys that aren't as proven. Braden's not a big fan of that. I respect the grind.
I'm fixing it next year. We're not doing that. All right. That's all season. I'm like, I drafted some
guys that know ball. That's just what it is.
Oh my God. I drafted some good pitchers, and I'm like, I'm rocking with these boys. And then I see like a million ads and drops all year. I'm like, okay, well.
Then you see somebody start Simeon Wood Richardson against the Yankees, and he strikes at 11. You're like, okay, like what are we doing here?
I don't even want to hear it. No, congrats to everybody. It was a fun year. We're going to do it again next year. We'll try to get more of you guys in. Maybe
not over yet. Set up. Just good luck to you guys in the final as well.
Yeah, we might set up next year. We might do a double where Carter's in one league, I'm in the other, and I don't know. We announced 2 or something like that to make it more. I don't know. We'll figure out something. It'll be a good time. We'll get more of you guys involved. We know there was a lot of people at the beginning of the year that wanted to join that couldn't. But next year, maybe we'll figure something out depending on sort of how much people liked it. We'll switch things up. We'll make the league a little bit better every year. But to all those you participated, and to those 3 of you, I guess, in the finals, we hope that you guys have a good time, and hopefully one of you pulls it out, and you can brag to the rest of us. In saying that, Carter,
one of you pulls it out. Yeah, I guess there's not going to be a winner. They're just going to tie.
Yeah,
it's good. Exactly. Yeah, universal tie. They're going to get it perfectly on the dot. And we have no tiebreaker in place. It's just the first inaugural Locked On Fantasy League. It's going to end in a tie.
Yeah, exactly like that. What, like 156.2 to 156.2?
I think like in all of my years playing fantasy in like all sports, I've seen a tie like twice. And
Yeah,
I
it's
was
not
actually
been a
part of a
lot.
tie last year in baseball, and it was interesting. It was not a fun scenario. You're just always thinking about like, oh man, this guy, got one more strikeout or didn't give up that hit. I wouldn't know how to tie a baseball game. But I mean, that's completely separate. Yeah, shout out to you guys for obviously making the finals. And shout out to everyone that joined and specifically participated. Shout out for you guys for joining. But obviously, we prefer if you guys were active the entire season. There's going to be some opening spots for some people that weren't as active in this league. But besides the fantasy stuff, good luck to you guys. This is, for me, I think probably for you as well, for everyone in Toronto Blue Jays Nation, the most important series of the year, with there only being 6 games left and it being against the Boston Red Sox. With the Yankees, only 2 games, I guess technically 3 of the tiebreaker games back. This is a series that you really want to win. It really is going to be a good test for the Toronto Blue Jays that may end up playing the Boston Red Sox at some point in the playoffs coming up. Bunch more that we want to get into, and we'll preview this series against the Boston Red Sox after this break.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I talk about FanDuel. I love FanDuel because I'm a sports bettor. I like to do it. And NFL is where it's at for me. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't-miss offers. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. The $300 in bonus bets is like mind-boggling. I wish I would have waited to set up my account to get the $300 because all you have to do is win that first $5 bet, and it's like you can get free money off of using those bets. It's unbelievable. Take advantage of this offer now. Bet on NFL. I've been going crazy on the bets. I've been doing okay. I'm very middle of the road right now, so don't listen to me when it comes to how to bet. But make sure, if you guys like it and you enjoy it and you want to add a little flair to watching whatever game it may be, throw on some money. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. So, Carter, massive series, Toronto Blue Jays, Boston Red Sox. You know what? You said very important. I'm saying must-win series, my second of the year, a must-win series for the Toronto Blue Jays. Are you sort of with me on that one?
Yeah, that's absolutely. I do not want to leave this to the last series of the year against the Tampa Bay Rays. Let's lock it up now. Let's just put ourselves in the best situation possible to have as many games against the Tampa Bay Rays not matter. That is the goal of this series, even though you do have some playoff caliber pitching matchups to start these ones out. So in the first game of the series, you got Lucas Giolito versus Kevin Gausman. Second game of the series, you're going to have Garrett Crochet versus Max Scherzer. And then the third game, you got Brayan Bello versus Shane Bieber. 3-game series, the 6th, 5th, and 4th last games of the year. You said it, must-win series. I don't know if I've said it this year. I've definitely thought it. I might not have communicated that on the podcast. But yeah, this is by far the biggest series of the year. Like the only other ones that really come into my head are both series against the Yankees. Like the one that we swept them in the 4 game, and the most previous one where we lost 2 out of 3. So yeah, this one's very important, especially with the scenario that you are in. This could go multiple different ways. Like you could put yourself in a very good spot. You could maybe even lock this up for yourself and have the American League East and the American League locked up before going into that Tampa Bay Rays series. Or we could be looking at this a whole lot differently. I'm not even going to go into how that could look because the Toronto Blue Jays are going to take 2 out of 3. I don't care what the numbers are ever going to be for Brayan Bello. I think he sucks. I don't care what it is. Baseball Savant will tell you that exact same thing. You got to win that game. That third game of the series is crucial. Garrett Crochet, I mean, it's a playoff caliber pitcher. He's very good, obviously. But I want to see something from the Toronto Blue Jays in that game. I'm going to go with kind of what you said in the last series where they lose the first game and they win the next 2. I really want them to see I want to see them do some damage, especially offensively against Garrett Crochet, a very good pitcher, a playoff caliber pitcher, a pitcher that you might see in a first game, whether that is AL wildcard or an ALDS series. Do some damage against a very good pitcher in Garrett Crochet and win yourself a series.
Carter, I'm taking obviously series win as well, but I'm going Kevin Gausman and Shane Bieber. I'm going with our best options, our best pitchers leading into the playoffs. These guys are going to put their stamp on why they're 1 and 2. Garrett Crochet, I think the Blue Jays can get to them, but I'm a little bit concerned about what Max Scherzer is going to give you at this point. I hope he does well. I really do, but it's concerning. And, you said it best. We're at this point of the season where it doesn't matter who's on the mound. You got to do some damage. So I don't care who the names on the other side of the sheet are. Show up, bring the bat, get in there, use use that robot or whatever, and you guys can hit some baseballs and hopefully lock up the AL, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Obviously, a lot more drama to ensue in the next bunch of days, so we'll keep you guys updated on scoreboards, everything, standings as we continue on each game that we go. And stay tuned for, TikTok, Shorts, Reels, whatever they're called at this point. Every app calls them something different, but there will be videos post game. For the most part, we're going to try to get them out to you guys. A lot going on this week as well, and in the weeks to come with the Toronto Blue Jays heading into the playoffs. A big, massive couple weeks here for the boys. It's going to be a ton of fun. We always appreciate you guys throwing in your 2 cents into the comments section or more if you got it. So yeah, appreciate all you guys, all the comments, all the likes, all the subscriptions lately. You guys have been absolutely killing it. Carter, any last words from you before we kick out of here for the evening?
Yeah, big series against the division rival, really going to assert yourselves on whether you are a contender or a pretender going into the playoffs, and really will be that deciding piece for the momentum that you take, not just into the Tampa Bay Rays series, but into a playoff scenario as well. The biggest series of the year, only 6 games left. Going to be nail biters every single time, whether the Toronto Blue Jays are up 10 runs or down 10 runs. Every single game matters, and every single game is very important. And we'll be breaking it all down the entire week right here on Locked On Blue Jays. Just wanted to say it for one more time. Thank you guys for watching. All the support, like Brayden said, has been crazy recently. We appreciate you guys sticking along for the ride. A lot more baseball to come. We're excited for it. Hopefully you guys are as well. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.